Good morning once again, and welcome to the Haven Financial Group radio show. Feel free to give us a call anytime, 612-504-8400, online, havenfinancialgroup.com. Visit any of our educational classes, the calendar of events, all on our website, amongst other many retirement tools. We talk about freedom in retirement. It's what we're talking about, Kim, and how important it is in the transition from accumulation to preservation / distribution, and why it is so extremely important. And many times folks have never done it before, and we want to do it in the most tax efficient way possible. So let's continue to talk about this throughout the show.
Sure, absolutely. I would imagine, I'm not in that situation at this stage, Larry, but I would imagine that people's reaction, your initial reaction, not knowing how to do it, is just to go draw money out. And you were sort of explaining in the last block, that can be a real mistake.
Well, it can. From a tax perspective, you could be also draining your savings, and you shouldn't be, and depleting that. And having an emergency fund is so important. By having before I get into what's wrong if I don't have a plan, just by having a plan and knowing what to do or having somebody help you, it reduces stress. And many people say that's kind of important. I would agree. All the stress in retirement isn't going to make your retirement very happy. But what can happen without a plan, here's where the problems can come in. You're in the stock market. You're drawing off the wrong accounts. The stock market is down. You're depleting the wrong account, where if you had a good balance of emergency fund, you could draw off that and wait till the market bounces back. It could, risk of overspending too early, leaving you less money for those later years. Again, back to key tax saving opportunity. I'm mentioning the couple that was in that missed 7 years of doing IRA to Roth conversions or distribution. They could have nullified all of their IRA tax issues, which now are going to be issues. They're going to be paying more taxes. Making emotional decisions during volatile times can really wreak havoc on the portfolio and the structure of your portfolio. So again, having a plan, having a partner, having the discussions, having the conversations to know, okay, this is why we do it and how we do it. We send out at Haven literally probably millions of dollars throughout the course of a month for retirees that need income. Sure. But what we've drawn is a plan to know, okay, here's why we're drawing it, filling up that 12% bracket. Here's why we don't want to go any higher into the 22 or 24%. So what other options do we have? Laying out all the sources and figuring what makes the most sense.
Sure. Yeah. So strategy really is important when it comes to mailbox money, making sure that you have a steady income. And sometimes that strategy is more than just drawing money off of your savings. The folks there at Haven Financial Group certainly understand that, and they can help you with a fabulous plan to make sure that you are getting every bit of the money that you deserve and that you've saved for throughout your retirement. 612-504-8400 is the number where you reach the folks there at Haven if you're looking for a partner to help you with that kind of strategy. We sort of set this whole show around the idea of freedom during the summer. And I think that's because a lot of us just like to get out. We like to move around. We like to do all kinds of things. We don't want to be so restricted in the summer months. And I think we maybe spend a little more money in the summer too. Don't you, Larry?
So I would say that's accurate. I would say so.
Yeah, I think we really do. So, you want some things sort of set in stone, or you want things at least sort of strategized out so that retirement continues to move along steadily during the summer and you feel that freedom, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand your time horizon. Your timeline influences how much risk you can take. More time means more flexibility to recover. Less time means you'll need to, get income from that. So we want to align that closely with our spending needs. I'm all about taking vacations. I love vacations because we delayed them as a family for so long. But don't derail your retirement because of a super expensive vacation. Maybe there's a better way to take that vacation. I'm not about ruining vacations, but that budget. Oh, we got to talk about that budget again. But budget with a purpose. Be realistic. Put pen to paper. I know it's not going to be fun, but it may show you where you're spending in the wrong areas. You may not even know it. You might not even be aware of it until you do something like this. It goes a long way, and that's not just for young people. That's for retirees and everybody in between. If you really want to know. Now, granted, I have clients that have never budgeted a day in their life, and they have worked it out very well. I'm not recommending that, but I'm not saying it can't work out. I'm just saying it's a good practice to be able to know where you're spending. As you get closer to retirement, though, we teach on this that maybe you don't want to gamble with all your money in the stock market. Maybe it's time to protect some of that principal. How do you do that? Principal protected investments that you may give up some of the upside, but in return, you don't have any of the downside. It's very attractive. It could be more of a bond replacement in a portfolio. Maybe you don't want to gamble with all of your money, and maybe you shouldn't. You know, we have clients that have no money at risk in the stock market because they don't need to. Even though they have the ability, they don't need to. So again, these are the conversations that we're going to have and you should be having. There's nothing wrong with being conservative. Sometimes, though, people can be overly conservative when they don't have to. Again, what's the happy medium? We call this stress testing your portfolio to alleviate some of the stress when the markets are jittery, so you do sleep at night. You don't worry as much. You don't have as much anxiety, and you don't make a really bad decision on getting out at the wrong time. That's really the counseling session that we have.
Sure. And a plan today is enjoyment tomorrow, right?
It is. It is. We're really planning for the future, and what I mean by that in retirement, many people, so nobody's really coined it, but the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. More spending early on in retirement, a little less as we get into it. And then the older years, obviously not as much go, but potentially healthcare, which is why we want to plan for that as well. So, with thoughtful planning, you can enjoy life. It's never too early to start thinking. I know that sounds, you're preaching that again. It isn't. It's never too early to start. In fact, the younger listeners right now, I would hope you've already got started. Even a little bit goes a long way. The power of compounding over many years, if you're 20, 30, or 40, is different than the 60s and 70s and 80s. And your probably portfolio should look different. Unfortunately, a lot of people never make any changes because they keep doing the same old thing, same old thing. Well, do you want the same results in your 70s as you did in your 30s? Probably not. But again, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know.
Sure, absolutely. 612-504-8400 is how you reach the folks at Haven Financial Group. Larry, folks can give you guys a call, set up an appointment, come in, sit down, and then what happens?
We start the process. We do obviously discovery process, see where you're at, where we're at, what the goals, objectives. And from that, now we decide, okay, we'll come up with some suggestions, recommendations. We'll do an evaluation of what you're currently doing. Again, small, medium, or large, whether you have very little or a lot, complicated or not complicated. And then from that, wow, okay, this makes sense. Here's why it makes sense from a risk standpoint, from a cost analysis standpoint. Just this week, I had a couple that was paying really 3 times the going rate in the industry. We know higher cost does not mean higher returns. And by me saying that, nothing is free. But I will tell you, Kim, transparency should be expected today. Yet I ask the question every week to folks, what are you paying your guy or gal to manage your money? Mm-hmm. The answer I get 80% of the time is, Larry, that's a really good question. We have no idea. If you're listening today, you should have an idea. You should know exactly what you're paying. Nothing is free, but what am I getting for what I'm paying? Is it a meeting once a year for 45 minutes to an hour? Are you getting education? Are you getting added value? Are they spending time with you? Do they really even care? Or are they just collecting a paycheck? Valid questions. You see, retirement shouldn't feel like a guessing game. And if it feels like a guessing game, guess again, it shouldn't be. Okay. Right. Hope is not a plan. Do you have a partner? At the end of the day, many people don't. They think they maybe have a partner, but that partner has not been listening and they're not paying attention. Maybe they're on cruise control. Maybe they're on the cusp of retirement. Maybe they're passing you off to somebody else. And maybe you don't have maybe that person doesn't connect with you as well as the previous person did.
Right.
I hear all these things all the time. Or maybe you had a bad experience in the industry. Unfortunately, I do hear about those too. Okay. Again, there's a shade of gray in every industry. We hear about the ones that are in the news oftentimes, hopefully not too often. You certainly reap what you sow, and some of those that did bad things are exactly where they deserve to be. So again, these are all considerations as you look at who do I want to partner with and do they even care?
612-504-8400. That's how you reach the folks at Haven Financial Group. Give them a call, folks. Tell them you heard us here on the radio. You'd like to set up an appointment and come in to see them. Enjoy a fabulous cup of coffee, a good cookie, and some really great conversation. 612-504-8400. When we come back, a little American history as we see the 4th of July on the horizon. We'll do the money edition.